Kihara and his bros had their middle school shut down. Now they gotta travel a little bit farther to go to school on the surface. A Lull in the Sea consists of two groups of characters, land people and sea people. I would have thought one of the two groups would be considered as unicorns, thought not to even exist by the other, but that's surprisingly not the case. Each looks and acts every bit as human as the other. Some people are cool with it, some people aren't. There's a lot of animosity between sea folk and surface folk. Why? No reason I can see, and I think that's brilliant. For those unfamiliar with real-world history, groups find reason to fight all the time for nonsense reasons. In the case of Lull and Sea, the prejudice was complete. Older sea folk gather around to talk trash about surface Yankees, the way old white people try to talk trash about the Latino community with me, and we know that them surface Yankees have similar feelings because their younger crowd, all the way down to elementary school, harbor animosity toward the sea folk, and they have no idea where they picked that up from. I said the prejudice was complete, and I meant it. There is a realistic chance that not everyone feels this way. The lead character's teacher has the same affection for both types of students, and early on we find a sea girl was secretly pulling a massive no-no, sitting in a tree with a surface Yankee. Kissing. I'm serious. I would be very curious to see an expert on the history of minorities watch this and get his opinion on the first half of the series. And I realize I recently said in another video that an anime cannot rely on the real world unless it can stand on its own. But as it so happens, Lull and Sea can stand on its own. Between the beautiful art and compelling story, I quickly realized I was in for the fancy anime. Violet Evergarden, bring me that bottle of wine I keep in the snuggle dungeon next to the Chino Kafu Dakamakura. Early in the series, Hikari kinda reminded me of the protagonist of Doki Doki Literature Club, except much more aggressive, especially towards surface Yankees. The role of Sayori taken by Monica, who to my disappointment is not spelled like the Monica from DDLC, and what I mean is Hikari felt a little too protective of her. Episode 1 in particular had him dragging her by the arm, and others had to call him down for being too rough. So how do you guys think he reacted to Monica making goo-goo eyes at handsome chill vibes up on the surface? I regard the mentalities in this series to be a perfect middle ground between real human beings and typical anime stereotypes, Monica possibly being the best example. She expressed a variety of emotions, none of which felt scripted, but just natural. Early on, she attempted to provoke someone by throwing food at the guy, and when he only expressed mild curiosity, she said, "You should be offended. I'm disrespecting you, and I've wasted perfectly good food. I made it myself." Aw, there may be another Dakamakura in the snuggle dungeon soon. If you had tried to ask her why she went to that trouble, she would not have an answer though, in spite of the viewer knowing why. That's because she's a realistic middle schooler. Hikari would react the same way if you pointed out the time he both discouraged sea folk surface Yankee relationships and admitted that one should pursue who they love in the same conversation with no self-awareness. For a while, I thought Lull and Sea was going to stay with the realism, but then one of the elementary schoolers showed she can articulate her emotions better than any elementary schooler I've ever seen. I'll admit, that was rather jarring, and it started rubbing off on the other one a few episodes later. But nonetheless, I still contend that this may be one of the most human anime I've ever seen. It's hard to give specific examples without spoiling too much, but I dare say it's as human as Seishan Buta Yaro wa Bunny Girl Senpai no Yome wo Minai. Give Lull and Sea 2 episodes or so. Episode 1 had a bad habit of breaking immersion. It would start a scene, get what I felt would be halfway through it, and then go on to another scene. For example, Hikari accidentally tripped, tackled another major character, and I wanted to see what that would do to the relationship between them. Apparently nothing. What I love about Lull and Sea, though, is its ability to make me feel a wide range of emotions. Monica makes me happy, Hikari makes me feel proud because of his development, some of the older people gave me primal fury. Give me one good reason the sea folk and surface Yankees can't get together. Propagate the species. Is that the level of reasoning we're working with? Can he be helpful and give surface Yankees the ability to survive underwater if they ask nicely? Maybe for an appropriate price? No, your story is dude is angry, pick one. So are we on Percy Jackson rules? Lull and Sea, you are a great anime, but not a masterpiece. I believe there is something here for everyone. Someone new to anime might get confused why Hikari was picky about how Monica says Prince Charming's name, but the wide variety of emotions will likely make them forget that. Me and the other romantics enjoy a complete shoujo pentagon and the suspenseful moments. If I come home from work one day and my loved ones, friends, and the rest of small town Texas are gathered at the edge of town with lanterns just waiting for something, I'm going to make a U-turn in the middle of the road and start a new life in Mexico because that is creepy! Also, some people might even be hyped for the respect toward traditions. On my description thus far, one might assume that this was a story about getting rid of old traditions that aren't doing anyone any good, but this is not the case. I'll get into the main point later, but on traditions, one character expressed the idea that the earlier mentioned ceremony might help one of those elementary schoolers, which as far as I can tell is a realistic view of someone who places importance on traditions. For me personally, this is where Lull and I had a teensy disconnect. I'm the sort of person who has decided where I come from and my ancestry does not have an impact on who I am today. I only have a conscious understanding of what it's like to take pride in heritage. A small reminder that I'm an unrelatable character to real human beings, but hey, I got plenty to be happy about. They managed not to sexualize the characters. I realized that I'm the only person in the room who cares if Nana can appreciate the same anime I'm watching, but early on I developed a certain degree of trust towards Lull and it's a good feeling when that goes rewarded. Golly, I feel like I'm praising someone for tying their own shoes after they did a splendid job explaining college-level math, but you know what? I'm happy about this for two reasons. One, let's be real, most other writers would use this premise to waste half an episode on a wet t-shirt contest, and two, this gives Lull and a sense of being a rebel. It ain't no corporate slave, it don't care at the figurine sale, it's got better stuff to do. Like the shoujo pentagon. It only started as a pentagon. After a quick 5 years later, that gets upgraded to a shoujo heptagon, where some people pulled a Captain America and spent that 5 years in suspended animation. Aw, your love for him is still the same after 5 years. And he's in middle school. And you graduated high school. Slightly pedo, but okay. Must be awkward for one girl whose circumstances put her living in the same house as both the guys who like her. How do you suppose that worked out? It's the girl whose crush became her uncle midway the series I really felt for. Is this sort of thing officially called the domestic kanojo conundrum yet? That 5 years later transition is where Lull and unceremoniously tosses its minor theme of prejudice out the window to make room for its primary themes, change and the power of true love. Some people change, some people don't. Some people do both. I obviously can't explain that without spoiling, so I'll use myself as an example. 20-ish years ago, when I was but a boy, I was attempting to tell my father something about Crash Bandicoot, and he told me I was going to grow out of that one day, but surprise! One of my upcoming videos is about making a Mutants and Masterminds character sheet for Crash Bandicoot. At the same time, in the past 6 years, I've somehow become an old man who prattles about the same subjects over and over. If that doesn't explain characters who change and stay the same, then I give up explaining. Back on subject, normally I'd like to draw more comparisons with other storylines on the off chance you've seen whatever I reference, but nothing comes to mind. Try as I might, I cannot come up with something similar, but this means I got to watch something truly unique and frankly unpredictable. But I still have some questions. For example, y'all went to school on the surface because your middle school closed, right? Where are all the other kids from the sea? Was your middle school a non-non-Biori situation?